What if you've been living your life on autopilot, thinking you're making your own choices, when in truth, someone else is behind the wheel? Not another person, not society, not fate, but you, a version of you that you've exiled to the dark. There is a part of you you pretend isn't there, a side you were told to shut down, and yet, no matter how far you run, it's always with you, watching, whispering, influencing. Psychologists call it the hidden self. It's made up of everything you suppress, emotions you weren't allowed to feel, desires you were shamed for, truths you never dared to speak. And here's the paradox. The more you deny this part of you, the more it governs your life. So let's ask the real question. Are you truly free? Or are you a puppet of the parts of yourself you've tried to forget? In the next few minutes, we'll unravel how the hidden self operates, why it forms, and how you can confront it before it becomes the author of your life story. The hidden self. What is it? Have you ever had a moment that surprised even you? A sharp word you didn't mean, a strange wave of envy, an urge to run away from something good. You paused afterward and asked, why did I do that? These aren't glitches. They're signals, messages from the part of you that's been locked in the basement. This hidden self contains every thought, emotion, and instinct you've been taught to disown. As a child, maybe you were told, be strong. Don't ask too many questions. Stop being dramatic. Good people don't think like that. So you learned to hide, to shape yourself into what was expected, to bury the pieces that didn't fit. But those pieces never truly disappeared. They simply slipped below the surface, into the subconscious, where they quietly began to shape your reactions, your decisions, and even your identity. The invisible chains, how it controls you. Let's talk about the ways your hidden self subtly, silently steers your life. 1. Reaction without reason. Ever snapped at someone over something trivial, or felt a strange discomfort around someone who's confident, loud, or direct? That discomfort often says more about you than them. It's the hidden self stirring. 2. Sabotaging your own progress. You get a good job offer and suddenly feel paralyzed. You meet someone you truly connect with and start pushing them away. The truth is, if success threatens the version of you you've grown comfortable with, even if it's a painful version, you'll subconsciously find a way to destroy it. 3. Repeating the same patterns. Falling for the same kind of person. Quitting right when things are about to change. Sabotaging peace when you finally find it. You're not cursed, you're just controlled by parts of yourself you've never acknowledged. The root of repression. Where does it begin? From a young age, we're trained to filter ourselves. We learn that some emotions are too much, some desires are inappropriate, some traits are unlovable. A curious child gets labeled as annoying. An ambitious teen is called selfish. A sensitive boy is told to toughen up. And so, to survive, we slice parts of ourselves off. Not because we want to, but because we believe we have to. You don't grow up whole, you grow up adapted. But the disowned self doesn't disappear. It becomes the shadow in the background, always watching, always influencing. A real story, the divided life of Emily Dickinson. Let me share the story of someone you may know only as a reclusive poet, Emily Dickinson. Most of her poems were found after her death, scribbled on scraps of paper, locked in drawers, hidden from the world. Why would a woman so gifted, so visionary, choose silence? Because Emily grew up in a time that didn't welcome radical voices, especially not from women. She was curious, sharp, emotionally intense, but society told her to be soft, obedient, invisible. So she retreated. Her life became a paradox, physically isolated but emotionally vast, externally quiet but internally roaring. She turned inward, Not because she lacked brilliance, but because she had no safe space to be fully seen. And yet, her hidden self poured out anyway, in ink, in metaphor, in silence. Her poetry wasn't just art, it was the voice of the self she wasn't allowed to show the world. Now imagine if she had lived in a world where that voice was embraced. Would she have written more? Would she have spoken louder? Or would the shadow have stayed locked away with no way out? The escape plan, how to face your hidden self. So how do you stop your hidden self from becoming your secret master? You don't destroy it, you integrate it. Here are 3 powerful ways to begin that process. Step 1. Watch what triggers you. When you feel a strong emotional reaction, pause. Ask yourself, why is this bothering me so much? Often what irritates you in others is something unexpressed in yourself. That person who speaks confidently, maybe they remind you of your own silence. That person who sets boundaries, maybe they awaken your forgotten needs. Step 2. Write what you hide. Set aside 10 minutes. No distractions, no filters. Ask, what emotions do I always suppress? When did I feel ashamed for being myself? What part of me am I most afraid others will see? Write without editing. Let it all spill out. This is your hidden self, finally allowed to speak. Step 3. Transform, don't erase. The goal is not to fix your shadow. The goal is to bring it home. If your hidden self holds anger, turn it into boundary setting. If it holds fear, let it become caution, not avoidance. If it holds desire, let it inform your purpose, not your shame. The moment you accept the self you've abandoned, you reclaim your power. Bring it together. You are not just your kindness, discipline, or composure. You are also your anger, your hunger, your chaos. And that doesn't make you broken. It makes you whole. The self you've buried isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that was never allowed to speak. Yes, it can feel frightening to face it, but what you refuse to face ends up controlling you. You don't need to fear your hidden self. You need to meet it with honesty, with compassion, with courage. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to hide. So ask yourself, what have I locked away that I now need to welcome back? Because the longer you avoid that part of you, the longer it writes your story for you. But the moment you turn toward it, that's when the real healing begins. Call to action. What's one emotion or trait you've been afraid to face? Drop it in the comments, because your truth might be the key to someone else's freedom. If this video opened something inside you, give it a like. It helps more people find these messages. And if you're ready to dive deeper into philosophy, identity, and the psychology of being human, subscribe, like, and leave your comments.